Deep in the Amazon, a single wrong turn could mean vanishing forever. This is the story of one man who took that risk, an explorer named Percy Fawcett, whose name became forever tied to a legendary lost city he called Z. By the end of this story, you will understand the shocking truth behind his final, fatal journey into the unknown. He was a man driven by an obsession so powerful it consumed him completely, leading to a disappearance that sparked a century of mystery. What kind of person risks everything for a legend buried in the jungle? Percy Harrison Foss. It was not a man who merely enjoyed adventure. He was forged by it. Born into a family with a legacy of exploration, his own path was cemented through his work as a surveyor for the prestigious Royal Geographical Society. He spent years mapping vast, uncharted regions of South America, earning a reputation as a figure of almost superhuman endurance. He could travel with minimal supplies, navigate by the stars, and possessed an uncanny ability to survive where others would perish. But this rugged exterior concealed a mind deeply fascinated by the esoteric. Foss, it was a believer in the occult, drawn to theories of ancient, advanced civilizations and psychic phenomena. This unique blend of hardened explorer and mystical believer made him the perfect vessel for a legend. His obsession began to crystallize around a single, tantalizing artifact, a Portuguese document known as Manuscript 512. This centuries-old report described a sprawling, silver-rich city discovered deep within the Brazilian interior, complete with arches, statues, and mysterious writings. While others dismissed it as a fanciful tale, Fawcett saw a blueprint for discovery. He combined this manuscript with indigenous stories he had collected, tales of a lost, stone city hidden in the jungle. He gave this place a name, a single, powerful letter that would come to define his life and his death. Z, for Fawcett, Z was not a myth. It was a truth that called to him, a puzzle only he could solve. He became a man possessed, his singular focus narrowing until the entire world seemed to fade away, leaving only the path to his legendary city. Fueled by his unwavering conviction, Fawcett began planning his final, definitive expedition. The year was 1925, and he was determined that this would be the journey that solved the mystery of Z forever. He launched an exhaustive fundraising campaign, presenting his case to newspapers and scientific societies, arguing that the discovery of a lost city would rewrite human history. He meticulously planned every detail, choosing his companions with extreme care. He would not be leading a large, cumbersome party. Instead, he selected only two others, his 21-year-old eldest son, Jack, and Jack's close friend, Raleigh Rimmel. Both young men were fit, enthusiastic, and utterly devoted to Fawcett's dream. They trained rigorously for the ordeal ahead, hardening their bodies and minds for what Fawcett called the Green Hell. Their destination was the Mato Grosso region of Brazil, a vast and largely unmapped wilderness. Their equipment was deliberately minimal, a stark contrast to the heavy, unwieldy gear of other contemporary explorers. They carried only what they could manage on their own backs: rifles for hunting, a theodolite for navigation, and of course, Fawcett's precious maps and the cryptic manuscript 512. This lean approach was a point of pride for Fawcett, who believed large parties attracted unwanted attention and moved too slowly. But this very philosophy meant they carried no radio, no means of calling for help once they were beyond the reach of the outside world. Seasoned explorers and local settlers offered grave warnings. They spoke of the truly unforgiving nature of the Mato Grosso, a place of venomous snakes, disease-carrying insects, and brutal terrain. More ominously, they whispered about the indigenous tribes, some of whom were known to be fiercely hostile to outsiders. Fawcett dismissed every caution. He believed his years of experience and his almost mystical rapport with native peoples would see them through. In April 1925, the small party plunged into the unknown. For the first few months, sporadic messages trickled back. Telegrams reached the world, reporting their progress, describing difficult river crossings, and expressing unwavering confidence. The last confirmed communication was sent from a place they called the Dead Horse Camp, a location Fawcett had named on a previous journey. In his final telegram, he wrote that they were ready to enter a territory that was entirely unmapped. He was hopeful, he was determined, and then the line went silent. Percy Fawcett, his son Jack, and Raleigh Rimmel walked into the deep jungle and vanished from the face of the earth, leaving behind only a mystery that would echo for a century. Silence has a way of breeding obsession. As months turned into years with no word from Fawcett's party, the outside world could not accept that three men had simply been swallowed by the jungle. The mystery of their fate ignited a wave of speculation and launched one of the most tragic chapters in the history of exploration, the desperate search for the seekers. Over 100 explorers, adventurers, and journalists would vanish or die in the Mato Grosso over the following decades, all trying to solve a puzzle that had already claimed its first victims. They were lured by the same romantic dream of a lost world, but the jungle showed them no mercy. One of the earliest rescue missions, led by American explorer George Dyett in 1928, found tantalizing clues. He reported meeting members of the Kalapalo tribe who claimed to have seen the Fawcett party and told a grim story. They said the explorers, weak and ill, were taken in by the tribe, but then foolishly continued their journey eastward against the Kalapalo's stern warnings. The tribe stated they later saw smoke from the direction Fawcett had gone, interpreting it as a signal. Dyett's account seemed to point toward death from natural causes or starvation, but it was far from conclusive. Other searches ended more horribly. A Swiss trapper named Stefan Ratten disappeared without a trace. The journalist Albert de Winton was reportedly killed by tribespeople. Perhaps the most chilling case was that of the wealthy Brazilian explorer Colonel P.H. Fawcett, no relation, who mounted a large expedition only for his entire party to be wiped out, likely by the Aruma people. Each failed rescue mission added another layer of tragedy and mystery, proving that the jungle guarded its secrets with a vengeful ferocity. With so little hard evidence, wild theories flourished. Some believed Fawcett had been killed by a hostile tribe, with the Kalapalo often named as the most likely suspects. Others spun a more romantic tale, suggesting he had suffered a mental break and was living as a jungle hermit, a white king ruling over a remote tribe. The most tantalizing theory proposed that he had actually succeeded, that he had found his shining city of Z, and upon entering its gates, chose to sever all ties with the modern world to live out his days in his utopian discovery. This idea that he had found what he was looking for and simply never returned gave the story a strangely hopeful, if elusive, ending. The legend of Percy Fawcett transcended the world of exploration to become a fixture of popular culture. His story of a hidden world filled with ancient wonders directly inspired his friend, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, to write the classic adventure novel The Lost World. Decades later, his quest would fuel the creation of one of cinema's most iconic heroes, Indiana Jones. Fawcett had become more than a man. He was an archetype, the embodiment of the ultimate sacrifice in the name of discovery. Yet for all the speculation and all the fictionalized accounts, one question remained painfully unanswered, buried somewhere in the vast, green expanse of the Amazon. What truly happened after they left Dead Horse Camp? For decades, the story of Percy Fawcett was seen as a classic tragedy of obsession, a cautionary tale about a man who chased a mirage and paid the ultimate price. But what if the central idea that drove him to his death was not a mirage at all? What if his theory of a lost city, mocked by the scientific establishment of his time, was fundamentally correct? The answer began to emerge from the very jungle that consumed him. As modern archaeology started to peel back the layers of the Amazon, researchers, armed with new technologies like satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, made a series of stunning discoveries. They found that the vast rainforest was not the pristine, untouched wilderness everyone had assumed. Instead, it was the ghost of an ancient garden, a landscape profoundly shaped by human hands. Vast networks of earthworks, complex road systems, and evidence of large-scale agriculture pointed to a past far more sophisticated than anyone, except perhaps Fawcett, had dared to believe. The most compelling validation came from a site known as Kuhukugu, located in the very region Foss it had been searching. Here, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a sprawling, fortified settlement, a network of towns and villages connected by roads and canals. At its peak, centuries before European contact, this was a major population center, home to perhaps tens of thousands of people. They lived in large communal houses, engineered sophisticated fish traps, and managed the forest in ways that supported a complex society. This was not a city of silver and arches, as manuscript 512 had described, but it was undoubtedly a lost civilization, one that completely reshaped our understanding of the Amazon's history. This evidence provides a profound and bittersweet vindication for Percy Fawcett. He was wrong about the specifics, about the name Z, and the exact nature of the city he sought. But he was overwhelmingly right about the big picture. The Amazon had indeed been home to the very type of advanced, pre-Columbian civilization he had staked his life and reputation on. His tragedy was one of timing, not of vision. He ventured into the jungle a century too soon, without the tools to see the invisible cities hidden beneath the dense canopy. He died for a truth that the world was not yet ready to accept. So, while the man himself vanished, his dream of a lost city did not. The real mystery is no longer whether such a place existed, but how many more are still waiting to be found, silent monuments to an explorer who saw the shape of the past long before anyone else. Percy Fawcett's story is a haunting paradox of discovery. He ventured into the jungle carrying the weight of a single, magnificent idea, only to be erased by the very land he sought to understand. His obsession was his compass and his anchor, leading him toward a truth he would never live to see confirmed. In the end, he was a man who gave his life, and the lives of his son and his friend, for a city that was real, just not in the form he imagined. The tragedy is profound, yet his legacy is one of startling vindication. He saw a hidden history written on a landscape everyone else viewed as empty wilderness. The lost cities he dreamed of were not made of silver, but of earth and memory, and their discovery decades later rewrote the story of the Amazon. It is a deeply bittersweet legacy, the story of a man who was right for all the wrong reasons, and whose greatest proof emerged long after his voice was silenced. His quest, born from an old manuscript and an unshakable belief, ultimately helped shatter a scientific dogma and open our eyes to the profound human history of the world's greatest rainforest. So we are left to wonder what other hidden worlds are waiting just beyond our sight, what ancient mysteries lie beneath the sands of a desert or deep within an ocean trench, their stories untold until the right person, with the right blend of vision and obsession, dares to look. The map is never truly finished. Share your own theories in the comments below, and tell us what lost city or civilization you believe is still out there, waiting for its Percy Fawcett.